All right, guys. So I just came off of a walk with my son, and it's time we have a real conversation around the impact of AI on the music industry. Okay. I think a lot of people are just, being left in the dark, and it's alarming. Truly, it's alarming because I was on Twitter and there was so much pushback for basic facts. Let me show you guys something here. So I shared some graphs just to quantify and help you guys understand the power of AI. I'm not here to use this as fear mongering. I'm not here to use this as fear bait or whatever people call it. I want people to wake up so that we can use this to our advantage instead of always being the people who are left behind and wondering what happened later. So I looked it up, and basically in 2 years, Google converted over 60% of searches into AI driven results. I said Google processes roughly 8.5 billion searches a day. And if you do that math over this time period, okay, it gives you about 2 trillion annual searches converted to AI results. So what does that mean? It means when people type in, Bryson Tiller type beat, it's not going to, in the future, it's not going to pull up a website. What happens if somebody types in Bryson Tiller type beat and it just generates it right there on the spot and instantaneously, just like that, without any website? They call it no click era. The unclicking era, I think, is the term they use. So what we have to realize is that yes, we can be organic. Yes, we could do the human first thing. But if it's never seen, it's almost like, can you hear a tree if nobody is around to actually listen to it fall? Does it make a sound if nobody's there to witness and observe it? So the same thing with our great product. You can make the greatest of human music, but if nobody can find it, literally nobody can find it on the planet Earth, unless you do human to human communication, how are people going to discover you? Isn't that the whole thing about music right now? People using TikTok, people relying on Spotify for discovery, relying on the AI algorithm, the AI driven algorithm for discovery. But what happens when the algorithm, even the social media platforms, you type in a certain name now on Instagram, it gives you a description of what you're looking for. It doesn't even give you the person's account anymore. I looked up somebody's account and it didn't even show their account. It gave me a description and then other people who weren't them. And I forget how I had to do it to even find their actual account. So if they're doing this natively on the actual social media platforms, how will people get discovered in the traditional sense? And especially with music, because music, there's no metadata that says this song is about this, it's just all audio. There is a translation tool, but it's not the same translation tool as somebody going to your website, reading a blog post, okay, and scraping that data. So I think the harsh reality here is people don't want to confront the fact that things are not just moving forward, they've already moved forward. And I showed another disturbing graph that people couldn't grasp. And here's this graph here. And I said, don't hold on to the old ways. I said, this isn't dismal in that there's no equal or greater opposite. This just shows the energy is moving to a different medium. I said, we must change our approach. This graph is referring to organic type beat traffic. So I know you guys are told the fantasy of if you just make a super niched type beat channel, you can blow up like the next producer. That is, they're giving you a half truth. If you look at the overall market and type beat traffic, organically speaking, the supply is so high that the demand didn't match, the rate of supply. And now we find the organic searches dropping not only because of the supply shock, but also because of the AI generation tools like Suno, like Sonato, like Google Lyria 3 Pro, like, what's the other one? Producer AI. You guys can name the AI music generator. The people who were searching up beats before are making their own beats now. So doesn't that mean that there's a consequence of that audience being converted over? So in simple words, gone are the days where you could just type, put up a Drake type beat and get 1 million views and just go viral. Just gone are the days. One, because of supply, but two, because of the fact that, again, they call it AEO instead of SEO, which is search engine optimization. Now there's AI generated engine optimization. And now we have to be a brand. We have to be, have an authority. We have to have cited works. Okay. We can't just stuff a website and our YouTube videos with a bunch of keywords and trick the ranking system and be seen anymore. Now you have to have actual results, actual community. The one moat against AI is pure community. That's why we have our Discord. If you go to discord.gg/busyworksbeats, we have 130,000. Let me just show you guys instead of telling you. Hold on. All right, here's our Discord. It's discord.gg/busyworksbeats. We have 130,463 people in here. So come join us. It's completely free. Just go to discord.gg/busyworksbeats. When you join in at the top, click where it says BusyWorks Beats and then go to where it says show all channels. You guys will be able to see all the stuff on the left side. We have a ton of free downloads. We have free plugins listed here, free sound kits, free drum kits. Lunch 77 contributed a huge amount of drums. We have project files, hip hop samples from all the top hip hop records in here. I mean, the list goes on and on. Okay, so just come join us on Discord. It's discord.gg/busyworksbeats. And the reason I'm showing you the Discord is because Discord is the true definition of community. It has interaction. You could upload directly to it. It really is community. When people say community, it's usually just a brushed off word. It means nothing. But truly Discord has that feel of like, wow, this is everything we need to stay bonded under one flag, so to speak. So that's what we need to build in the future. And we need to build brands. But most people don't listen to me about the brand building or the marketing because they think that the algorithm will solve all their problems. Well, now is the day where I've tried to warn people. I'm not acting like I'm a prophet and I don't know the future. These are just core principles of how business works. You know, it starts with traffic, then you move into value exchange, and then you move into customer relations. Well, if the traffic pillar is being changed, I won't say threatened because I don't want to fearmonger in this video, but if the traffic pillar is being changed to where you can't just rely on one platform's algorithm anymore, okay, then you need to figure out where the traffic is. And this is the part that nobody wants to just face is the facts about the traffic. Now, I said something else on Twitter here. This graph shows the organic searches of FL Studio. Now, FL Studio is the orange colored line. Does this look good for FL Studio? When it's going straight down in a matter of 5 years, almost its half-life passed in, 3 years. It already had a half-life in 3 years. You know how long FL Studio has been out? Since like 98. I think it peaked in 2008. 2018 was the peak of FL Studio. But people started using it around 2009. So you figure 2009 to 2018 is what? How many years is that? That's 9 years. It hit its peak. And now it half-lifed, meaning that it went from its peak to 50% less in a matter of 3 years. You guys, do you understand the math? It took 9 years to get to a peak, 3 years to get to 50%. That's 1/3 of the time, but it got half of the decline. So it's not a good thing. So when people are telling me, oh, it's just because it says organic traffic. No, this is in general. If your organic traffic doesn't just, steady climb over time, you're losing brand power, you're losing authority, you're losing position. And I said this in a different video, but I said, I feel like FL Studio is not going upward. I feel like it was going downward, and my gut was right. I see this stuff every single day, guys. Whether the data shows it or not, I feel it because I'm in the trenches teaching people, and I can see people's interest kind of moving to other stuff. The main thing I see though is the companies that are in lead, BandLab, and Suno are the only innovative companies that I've seen actually make impressive innovations in the audio space in the last 3 to 5 years. FL Studio, they stopped innovating. Like I told you guys, I was very frustrated when 2024 came out and then they named it 2025. I'm like, nothing changed really. Now you're making all of us look like we're lying. Like there's some huge difference in FL 2024 and 2025. And it was like barely any difference. And because of that fact, I was like, this is not good. And then we found out later, there's apparently private equities involved with FL Studio. I might do a different video about that, but there's a whole backstory about that. Apparently, I have to do more research, so don't take that as fact. But my point is, Suno has been super innovative, especially with the AI generation and the Suno Studio. I mean, they had time warp in a matter of months. It took FL Studio how long? We still don't have time warp the right way. It took Ableton how long to have time warp? I'm not sure actually. But my point is like they're adapting very fast. Everything they drop feels like something new in the audio space, not like this stagnant, repetitive, already done thing. BandLab, people want to sleep on BandLab, but BandLab, you guys got to realize like you can download that for free in the App Store. Okay. And anybody with an iPad, mobile phone, or desktop can download that app for free. They get access to Jay Black's drum. Shout out to Jay Black. Okay. And they can make a hip hop beat just like that without knowing much of anything. And it has AI tools built inside. Now, does it have AI music generation inside? Not necessarily, but it has AI MIDI generation and other tools inside. And kids are recording on their Apple earphones straight into the mic of this. Okay. And they have some technology that cleans up the microphone to a degree. Now, does it make it sound like a Shure SM7B in a acoustically treated studio? No, but it cleans it up pretty well. Okay. To the point where these kids are releasing their verses wrapped over these AI, I'm gonna say AI, Apple earphones right inside their car or wherever they can record. That's their mic. This is the mic now of the future. Now, is it, again, the highest quality? No, but does it need to be? I mean, when they get their money up, then they could, invest in a studio and a microphone and all that. Not everybody has the money to do all this stuff. Like, I really hate the pretentious music producers who have everything in their studio. It's like, how many years it took you to get that and how many thousands of dollars it took you to get that? Most people they have negative money. They don't even have money to get the DAW. Why do you think so many people pirate stuff? Like, you think people just start off with $1 million to invest in a studio? Like, come on. So that is the future, is my point. And FL Studio has not innovated. And now we see the decline. To me, that is not a good thing, because if your organic traffic goes down, even if you do paid, you're still fighting an authority issue, okay? Because people are organically looking up these other companies. So me pulling out this data made people like really revisit AI and the conversation around AI. Now, you guys can follow my Twitter for trash talking the haters or just stuff about AI if you're curious. But I think that was pretty shocking to people to see the actual data, because we're all telling ourselves that, AI is just, people could tell AI music, which, yeah, maybe now. But let me load up a song from Google real quick. Here's AI Studio by Google. What we're using is the Lyria 3 Pro model. We're going to give it a description. And I'm not saying this sounds exactly like perfect human music, but let's type in, let's say, neo soul band, and let's say female singer. I'm not going to give it any lyrics, nothing. We're just going to hit generate. Now, I showed you guys behind the scenes, Google was allowing me to see some of their secret projects. I was not allowed to describe the interface, but they were allowing me to share the results with you guys in terms of the audio outputs. And there's even a new site, Producer AI, which I have to try out and test on a different video and compare the differences between that and Suno. But Google, maybe their songs don't feel 100% like songs just yet in terms of like the wildness that Suno gives you. But Google has the highest fidelity in terms of sonics that I've heard. It sounds like a real song. It sounds like you recorded in a real place. And that's because Google, I assume, has access to the multi-tracks. So when they're training their AI models off this stuff, they're not just using stem splitters to separate the vocal from the drums, from the bass, from the whatever background instruments. They're getting the actual multi-tracks. All right, here's the track here. All right, so just listen to the sonics.
The sun is leaning low across the floor. I don't mind the silence anymore.
Sounds pretty clean to me.
Everything is soft, everything is slow. Watching how the city starts to glow.
And they even have background instruments that are clean. It's not like some fuzzy
Found
mess.
a rhythm in the way we move, settling inside a steady groove. Wait for the indigo, watch the lights begin to show. Catching the fire.
So it sounds like a real compressor, sounds like a real room. It sounds like a real high fidelity recording to me, to my ears. I hear the sonics. As much as people say, oh, you could hear that AI bull crap slop, whatever you guys say to make yourself feel better. That sounded like a real recording in a real space with a real compressor. I felt the depth of the bass. It felt like it was clamping down. You feel the clear sonics coming through. I'm not paid to say this. I just want people to be aware. What happens if you go to search Drake type beat? And instead of your website coming up or your YouTube or whatever, hack social media platform strategy you got from the gurus who are trying to teach you niche marketing to go super micro niche so that you can rank for all these keywords. But what happens if you type in Drake type beat and instead of any website, any YouTube videos, any Instagrams, it just shows you it's loading, it says loading. And then 2 milliseconds later, up comes a song and you just hit play.
In the shadows we know.
What happens when that's the case? What I'm saying is search is almost going extinct. And I showed you guys the graph. So the same way FL Studio can reach its half-life in a matter of, how many years is this? In a matter of 2 years or so, let's say 3 years, it reached its half-life. Okay, 3 years. FL Studio has been open since 19 something. Okay. So in 3 years, it lost half of its traffic. That's not good. If you go back to the Google search, even worse for type beats, this only took 2 years to, let's see. So at 12K, it reached its half-life in a matter of 3 years. Same thing. Google, okay, we went from January 2025 at 6% to now 10x in the same year. Okay. So within 2 years, since January 2024, within 2 years, we already have 60% of the search traffic being delivered over to AI results. What does this mean? This means the internet has been open since I was like in middle school. We were Googling way back when, MySpace and way back then. Well, now, in a matter of a couple years, the way we do things, the way we type into Google to look up stuff is literally in a couple of years, it's evaporating. There's only 30% left. That's not a lot, you guys. So we see companies like BeatStars rolling out their AI platform to try to survive in this like last ditch effort. You know, I'm trying to teach you guys, you have to pivot. There's no more of this like hacky micro niche stuff. You have to build a brand, a real thing. You have to build a community, a real thing. Commerce is when you have social intercourse. Quite literally, that's what it's called, social intercourse. If you look up the etymology of commerce, it says social intercourse. It doesn't say social interchange. It doesn't say social exchange. It doesn't say social gathering. It says social intercourse. How do you do that? You bring people around other people. What is that called? A community. Why do people even have communities to begin with? Because if I'm a hunter gatherer, okay, and I'm out hunting and eating deer and all types of stuff from nature, the reason I would need a tribe and a community is because I need to actually decentralize my resources. So if I'm the greatest hunter in the world, I need to make sure I decentralize my resources so that my calories are spread across this person to that person to that person to that person. So we have to think like a hunter-gatherer, for example. Think of it like insurance. The reason I'm going to want to be around other people is because let's say I go to the wrong field that day and the buffalo aren't there to hunt. Well, Bob, who went to the other field, saw the buffalo in his field and he brought back the buffalo. So I might have had a down day in field number 1, but Bob had a great day in field number 2. The same way on Halo, for example, if you guys played Halo 2 or Halo 3, we used to go crazy on the map called Lockout, for example. And at Lockout, you would need people positioned in different places so you can call out your enemies. This is before they had UAVs from Call of Duty and all this type of stuff. You had to either read the radar or you had to wait for somebody to call out your enemy. So the more eyes you have, is my point. The more eyes you have, the more enemies you can sense. The more stuff you can gather, the more eyes you have. Hence where community actually derived from. And in community, you have social hierarchy. Hierarchy is designed to help delegate actual labor. Okay, so for example, if one person hunts, well, the other person has to build the actual settlement. The other person has to make the weapons. The other person has to cook the food. So it's all these different micro roles to where we can maximize and leverage everybody's specialty in that case. My point is, there's a biological benefit to building a community and not doing it by yourself. So we're wired to build these communities, not only for ourselves and our own benefit, but for survival of our genetics, progeny, our children, for example. So those are just a few reasons why community sticks together. And we have to think, before the internet existed, we had humans who had intelligence in their head. So the humans were the internet, the same way we still are the internet. We haven't fed all the information into the AI database or the AI machine learning just yet. So there is still existing information in this person's brain versus this person's brain versus that person's brain. And that's why corporations have headquarters, so that you can pull all those people together and contribute to one solution. The issue with that is, however, if one person goes down, they take with them all the information. So there's a give and a take to this AI approach to life in general, which is we need a storehouse for all the intelligence so that in the case that Bob has something happen to him, we don't all lose out as a community moving forward. They also call this the key man risk in business. A lot of businesses don't sell for the highest price because it's centered too much around one person. Okay. And if that one person leaves the business can potentially fall or not do as well. So they call that key man risk. So all these elements, is my point, tie back to the core concept of why you guys need to focus on brand building, which is trust building, which is building the glue between two people. Okay. And we need to gather multiple people in communities so that we have social commerce. Okay. That is the key. That is the moat against AI. I can make this video longer, but I'm going to be out of here, guys. I got to spend family time. I might do part 2. So if you guys want deeper concepts, we'll go into deeper concepts. But I just want people to wake up. I'm not telling you guys what to do and what to believe. I'm just telling you guys, by 2027, they're estimating that we're going to reach what's called AGI, Artificial general intelligence. This means that it can do basically anything a human can do. It could click on the computer the same way we click in notes. It could do a bunch of stuff. Now, with the humanoid robots, what happens if we embody that same intelligence into an actual physical body to where it could play guitar? It could record through a microphone. It could generate its own voice, different voices at that. So what happens when the AI literally becomes the duplication of humanity as we know it? And I think us humans are just too afraid to understand that something is smarter, something's better than us. You know, we're too afraid to say that. My question back to you guys is this: how do you believe in angels, but you're afraid of AI? How do you believe in something stronger than you when you call upon angels to help you, but then you're afraid of AI? How does that make sense? Like, I think as humans are just so stuck in the fact that we think we're the highest intelligence that ever existed. Like, do you understand what Earth is? We're like on this small ball in this huge, massive universe. You think Earth is the highest intelligence there is? No. Okay. So long story short, I'll leave my views out of it. I just want you guys to share this conversation because AI is creeping up, and it's creeping up way deeper. This is way deeper than AI music. This is about the shift. This is a fundamental shift at the core of how you run your business. This is way beyond Suno, way beyond AI, whatever generation. We're not talking about generative music alone. We're talking about the fact that your supply literally goes infinite. What do you do now? If you can't be found on Spotify because it's a walled garden and your stuff isn't in the AI machine to even know that you exist, how will people find you if you're in this walled garden called Spotify? So long story short, there's a lot we could talk about. I just want you guys to wake up. No more time to sleep. It's too many consequences if you sleep. All right, y'all. Subscribe if you're new. Peace.